Hi, this is Peter. As many of you know, InterPersonality teach Psyche-Type, the science underpinning the MBTI and all other Jungian cognitive function-based indicators. The trouble is most indicators do not reveal a person's true Psyche-Type every time. They only collate whatever misconceptions and deceptions you tell them and give it back to you as a 4-letter label. But this is not your true Psyche-Type, only your subjective perception of self. As many of you also know, unlike almost all other so-called MBTI or psychological type experts here on YouTube and even LinkedIn, everyone at InterPersonality must be accredited, practiced, and be able to prove they can type a client without using an indicator. There is little sense extrapolating on a theory if that theory is not known and honoured in practice. Dr. Carl Jung and all earlier Jungians did not use an indicator. Those practitioners who are knowledgeable and experienced in the science do not need an indicator. A person's cognitive function preference, as Jung noted, is obvious. Why is this so important? Frankly, the MBTI and all other indicators are just dumb, dull instruments. And an indicator is just that, only an indicator. All the quizzes do is add up the lies and misconceptions the candidate shares with them and then spit out a result. But that result must always be moderated by a knowledgeable practitioner. Sadly, not even accredited MBTI practitioners have sufficient training or practice to confirm a person's correct Psyche-Type, so they too are essentially little more than label jockeys. 20 years ago, this was less of a problem because few people knew the MBTI and even less understood the operation of the indicator. Now I watch people select the answers that correspond to the personality that they want, or simply choose that personality because they like the sound of a particular 50-word Psyche-Type description. That's okay if you want to play games with yourself and others, but when these same people go on to create videos about being a particular type, it becomes mass deception, a social injustice, a lie. Even if a person can describe all the aspects of a personality type, this is just persona. It isn't too hard to put on a show for the camera as you recount the bits that you've read or heard. But sadly, others are watching, all the while being deceived. Many of our clients and even some Psyche-Type students believe they are a particular type because they talk and act exactly the same as a person they saw on YouTube. So they must be the same type as that person. Incorrect information leads to incorrect conclusions. We started InterPersonality to achieve several outcomes. To make accurate Psyche-Type information available in a venue where sincere seekers of knowledge could learn and practice under the tutelage of trained, knowledgeable, experienced practitioners without being harassed by ignorant trolls. To encourage all of those who imagine they are doing good to adopt appropriate professional practice by applying Jung's and the MBTI theory and not their interpretation of misapprehension thereof, our site has many functions where you can prove that you know what you're talking about. Similarly, all those people who have mounted YouTube vids which contradict accurate information on Psyche-Type, we ask you to consider the folly of your actions. This is part of our Psych Insight section on the InterPersonality website. It It would seem that even well-educated people think it's okay to be an MBTI authority when clearly they have inaccurate knowledge, often gleaned from forums or the one or two books they might have read, and little, if any, supervised practical experience. Strange that so many people think it's okay to prostitute another discipline. If you cannot accurately determine a person's psyche-type, then why consider yourself worthy of teaching the science? I have students who find themselves confused by these supposed authorities. This is not good for either the science or the people who are left misinformed. If you are not qualified, in the case of the MBTI, that's at least an accreditation and practice to an appropriate competence, then it's not okay to speculate or philosophize about a person's type or the workings of the MBTI, especially when you really haven't studied in that area and clearly do not know the discipline you are teaching. Psyche-type is a science that can have a profound effect on other people's lives. It ain't a game for you to practice your opinions on. Make sure of all things, hold fast to what is fine, is an admonition from the scriptures. A reasonable benchmark of a true professional psyche-type practitioner is they own and have read the MBTI manual, which contains the full Myers-Briggs type theory and practice, and Dr. Carl Jung's psychological types, at least the sections on psychological type descriptions. They should have had at least 1 year's supervised practice working with type on real people. To that end, everything and everyone on the InterPersonality website is carefully vetted for compliance with the theory and proper practice. Shortly, we will be making available our complete collection on YouTube on the MBTI theory, rules and practices, superimposed on Jung's psyche-type axioms as quoted from his treatise, Psychological Types, to ensure everyone understands the correct basis of the MBTI. These are part of the advanced concept sections from our What Type Are You course, but we feel it is time for everyone to revisit the real foundation of psyche-type, Jung and the MBTI as common ground for discussion. Quit citing rubbish from wannabe philosophers and the fools' forums where facts seem to be generated from convenient reinterpretations, ultimately leading to a nonsense of the science. I will be making a separate announcement regarding the new functionality on the InterPersonality website, along with another vid explaining why almost every professional, including Dr. Carl Jung, knew it's extremely difficult to accurately type yourself. But as Jung noted, these cognitive functions are clearly discernible. Of interest, Jung found it difficult to recognize his own dominant function. Although we will have plenty of time to argue over what type Jung is when the Psych Insight section is ready on the InterPersonality website. Knowing that even MBTI accredited professionals do not always arrive at their correct psych type until they undertake further education where, surrounded by people who are not all just like them, they realize they have misconceived the functions they use. InterPersonality recommend a simple 3-step process, which is not only going to assure the correct psych type, but you'll also gain accurate knowledge of psych-type theory. If you wish, an accreditation is awarded after you pass a simple exam. We call this our Know Thyself package. For more information, visit the InterPersonality website.